So, Helena, I am so excited to have you on today. And as we spoke earlier, we may not be able to finish this interview in one sitting. And that's because, in my opinion, you are so multi-talented. I,
Oh, thank you so much.
well, it's very true. When I just jotted down a few, and not even close to all of them, a few of the adjectives that I would use to describe you. And so, of course, first, I mean, obviously, everyone watching can see that you're beautiful. They may not know how beautiful you are unless they know you on the inside as well. And so that you've got all that beauty. You are so talented, fascinating. I find you fascinating, always creating. You are such a connector. It's so impressive the way you build rapport with people, and you genuinely connect with them. That stands out in my mind. Change maker. I can see, and many people can see you. You're very public, on social media, but I've seen it in action. How well that you're able to help someone make changes in such a short period of time, and always willing to do it in a long period of time. You're just very generous with your time. You're entertaining. We'll be talking about that more later. And also, I wanted to add one more thing. With all of these things, and there's so much more, you're a great friend, by the way. Thank you, Ken Russo, for that.
Thank you, Ken.
I would like to say that I believe that you're going to receive even more notoriety, not that you're asking for that, I don't know, but notoriety in the future, because I've always felt like you were like a little bit of a hidden gem. And I've been starting to see you really shine. So I'm excited to see where your career is going. And I don't know what you see, but I see really amazing things. But I do feel that way. So I'm excited about you. More people being exposed to the good works that you do. So.
Oh, thank you, Joni. That is my intention, is to become more visible online, more visible in my community, and to actually, Joni, I have this saying inside me. Then it came to me in about 2011, and I didn't understand what it meant. I was doing this meditation, and I was going out into the future mind, and and it brought back this idea that my purpose, others than finding joy in everyday life, is to help heal the pain in other people's hearts. And when that message came to me, I had no idea what that meant. But soon I found hypnotherapy, the emotion code, and a few other things. And now I'm able to help heal that pain in other people's hearts.
Well, and your passion shows, the way that you approach things, the way that you approach learning and continuing to keep adding things, and always interested in just more and more and more to help people. It's really impressive, and I appreciate it. I appreciate the way it impacts me as well. So let's just start by let's have just a great grounded conversation about hypnosis. So I think a lot of people at one point in my life were surprised that I became very public about my work with hypnosis as a licensed mental health counselor, and they thought, oh, what is she doing? I even I heard comments that were great because they knew my work was good. I was getting great results, but there were some people still in the backgrounds, and you just hear these little things that would say, oh, I don't know, she's doing some weird thing now, And so do you mind just talking about what hypnosis actually is? And and talking a little bit about how the mind works. I would like from your perspective.
Great. So as a certified clinical hypnotherapist, we learned that the definition of hypnotherapy or hypnosis is communication between the conscious and the subconscious. And we all go through hypnosis, Joni, every single day, at least twice a day, but we know much more. Those times are when you're falling asleep at night and when you're waking up in the morning. Just as you're falling asleep, you go through this trance-like state that you have the ability to access the subconscious mind and give yourself suggestions that your subconscious, which is your automatic mind, to work on for you all night long. That subconscious mind is responsible for your imagination, your memories. It stores your memories. It has your emotions and all your automatic behaviors. And it holds your morals, your ethics. It's all in there. And then you have your conscious mind. It's kind of like the thinking mind, the analytical mind, the logical mind. You know what you should do. That part of your mind that has your willpower, that force, I'm just going to do this. Well, that conscious mind is so tiny in comparison to that larger subconscious mind, that powerful subconscious mind. And that subconscious mind runs programs, kind of like a computer. Computer runs programs. And sometimes it's got old, outdated programs. They were installed years ago and they're still running automatically in the background. Well, with hypnotherapy and hypnosis, we have the ability, each and every one of us has the ability to go in, find those old programs and update them with new information. And we do this with our mind. Isn't that interesting, Joni?
It's amazing. And I like the way that you explain it. And I think it's important for everyone that watches my podcast to hear it from you, because you have taken it a step further. You also, you work in clinical hypnosis and do so much great work with Stop Smoking. And your title is the Stop Smoking Lady of Canada, right?
I'm the Stop Smoking Lady in Canada. That's right. If you want to stop smoking, come see the Stop Smoking Lady.
And that,
which, Joni, I used to be a smoker many years ago.
Oh, wow.
And what happened, why I became the Stop Smoking Lady, and I want people to understand how powerful the mind is. I quit smoking in 2000, but I forgot that I ever was a smoker. And in 2016, somebody was in my clinical hypnotherapy office and they asked me if I could help them stop smoking. And I said, no, sorry, can't do it. I don't know anything about stop smoking hypnosis and I don't know anything about smoking. And I heard those words and then I started to think and recall and had memories. And it was, wait a second, I used to be a smoker. I had smoked for 21 years. 21 years. It was New Year's Eve, 2000. I don't know, maybe you remember Y2K, when the whole world was going to end.
Right, maybe.
Right? Because all the computers were going to crash and all that kind of stuff. But I had decided to quit smoking then. And when I realized that I had forgotten that I was a smoker, I needed to go out and find out why it was so easy for me to stop smoking and it was so difficult for others. I had not realized that I had hypnotized myself to be a non-smoker.
Yes. And you and I both actually have been trained in the same program. One of I know that we kind of piece things together in our own way and we have individualized it, but that's how we met. We were both very passionate about helping people stop smoking. For me, it was, I had promised my father that I would do something special about the problem. He died as, from lung cancer. And I just didn't, for me, throwing money at organizations, that was fine. I enjoy doing that. I love to help that way, but it's not me personally, like getting in there and doing something. I knew that I was charged with a greater responsibility when I made that promise. And so we were both in a good place to, of readiness to help people. And it is the most amazing feeling in the world to see their reactions as they're leaving, right? After you've hypnotized someone.
They leave the office, a couple hours later, and they're thinking, I asked them, so do you want to smoke? And they're like, no, I don't smoke. And they leave their cigarettes behind. I got so many packets of cigarettes. Yeah. And they often, Joni, I don't know about you, but they often have almost a tear in their eyes. They've been strangled by this habit that they thought that they could never, ever walk away from, because they tried so many times. And when they leave the office, they have a complete understanding what had kept them smoking all those years. Yes. and they leave that persona behind. They are no longer a smoker. They don't even think of themselves as a non-smoker. They're just somebody that breathes clean, fresh air.
And it's amazing how that just sets off other future changes for them. And, we install those as well, but they just know it. And one of my favorite things is walking a client out at the end and seeing that emotion that you were describing. It is very emotional for them. And when there's someone else at the front desk, and there normally is, to let them out, and they are just every time they're kind of wowed by it. And but it's wonderful. And they're excited to tell them, so it's great. So that's just one of the things that you do. Weight loss, you help a lot of people lose weight. And I want to talk about the entertainment when I use that adjective entertaining, because obviously you are entertaining. You're a great storyteller. You're wonderful explaining things. But would you mind telling everyone that other part of hypnosis that you do, that stage hypnosis? Tell
That's
them
right.
about that.
There's a picture of me as my alter ego, Roxy Madison, comedy stage hypnotist. Do you notice the difference in hair?
Yeah, so that's so interesting, right? So for your stage hypnosis shows, and you do different organizations, a lot of right, high schools and sometimes corporate things like that. Wow, it's a great opportunity for any organization. But so why is that your hair is so long and you have that well, I mean, you're beautiful both ways, but it's almost like an alter ego.
It's an alter ego. There's a couple of reasons why I've got a different name, Roxy Madison versus Helena Jehnichen. Can you imagine somebody introducing, and ladies and gentlemen, please bring to the stage, welcome to the stage, Helena, how do you pronounce your last name?
No, it's so hard for me. I don't know why.
Okay. So
Madison, I love. I can do that.
So I was wanting to learn how to do stage hypnosis. Couple of reasons. When I became a certified clinical hypnotherapist, I was in my offices and I was new, and I was afraid that maybe a noise would bother my client and take them out of hypnosis. I was so, I got to have music playing and everything, and I'd heard about these stage hypnotists. I was watching them on these YouTube videos. Maybe I saw one on a cruise one time, and I was so curious because I could tell the people up on the stage were hypnotized. I saw all the signs. I could even look into the audience and notice that there were people that were hypnotized. So I wanted to learn how it's possible that you can hypnotize 10, 20 people up on stage with lights and sounds and laughing and cheering, and they stayed in hypnosis. So I went to Las Vegas to go get trained, and I trained with many different hypnotists, Catherine Hickland and Don Spencer, Justin Trance, Richard Barker, and I learned how to do the craft.
That's great to have so many wonderful mentors like that, and to see different styles,
right. And I was going and training, but I had not done a show yet. Have you ever come across people that just train, but are maybe afraid to go do the performance?
All the time.
All the time, that's right. And so what I recognized is that I just need to do this. I need to do a show. So I used we were talking about this off camera earlier, the law of attraction. To imagine me doing this show that I wanted to do and how it would come about. And so, lo and behold, maybe a week later, I get a phone call. Helena, I know this is short notice, but there's this old age retirement community, and the workers, they're having a Christmas party, but their entertainment fell apart, and we're wondering if you could come and do a hypnosis show because you're a stage hypnotist, right? I'm like, yeah, I'm a stage hypnotist. and and I just, I went, yes, I can do it. It's nothing like having a target, a date, an event to train for. Yes. And so I trained for a week. I practiced and went over my head and read my notes and got in front of a camera and did everything to prepare. But there was one thing that I recognized that I had a big problem with, and that is, Joni, get this. I had never presented to more than 20 people at a time ever before. And there was going to be about 200 people in the audience.
Oh, that's quite a jump, isn't it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So I thought, what can I do to make myself feel more comfortable in front of this audience? And I have learned years ago. I used to live in Cairo in Egypt, and
Wow.
yeah, that's a whole nother story.
I did say fascinating.
And when I was living there, I needed to work a little bit, and so I found this job selling advertising in a magazine. But I used to mumble my words because I was incredibly self-conscious and shy. But I needed to work to be able to continue living there. So I realized something, Joni. Nobody knew who I was in that city of 18 million people. So I could just be me, and I could make phone calls. I could go to office to meetings because nobody knew who I was. So therefore, I thought I couldn't fail because didn't feel judged.
Right.
It was all about the feeling of being judged. So I tapped into that experience, and I thought, nobody knows who I am, so I couldn't fail. So I came up with a persona.
And look at your hair.
I know. And the hair was a big part of it because for years, I've always had short hair and I was never happy with it. And felt self-conscious about it. So I thought, okay, I'm going to put a wig on. I'm going to change my name, and I'm going to step into this persona of rock star comedy stage hypnotist. And nobody knew who I was, so I could not fail.
Amazing.
Before I went on to stage there in front of the 200 people who mostly didn't speak English and didn't know the hypnotist was coming, I did the best I could. And Joni, guess what happened? The audience really didn't get what I was doing, except for one person. It was an 8-year-old boy. Aww. He was following along all my suggestions and all the convincers, like I was supposed to wow the audience. And I saw this one kid, and he was doing everything that I was suggesting. So I called him up, and I had him stand beside me. I was looking for all my resources to give me confidence to keep going, to deliver my very first show. And he and I became buddies there up on stage, and the audience loved him. And I kind of made the suggestion, look at this young boy. He knows what to do. Let's do this again. As the audience started to follow along, they started to understand. And then I had the ability to call up volunteers up to the stage. And the show could begin.
It's amazing. Also, you put an 8-year-old boy in a position of great influence. And sometimes when we look back on those experiences, it's amazing. The whole dynamic is so impressive. It's so interesting. And so I have a tip that I can share that I use as well for having that other persona. It's a little bit different, but I do step into that. I was invited to Soccer X. I think you may remember that. And that stadium, that Marlins Park holds like 60,000 people. And so, I'm the girl. And I think from both of us, my hope is that these stories will help anyone who's afraid or has that lack of confidence to present or stand up in front of a group. That if we can do it, they can do it. I gave up a letter grade in undergrad in school to avoid a speech. I would not present my research, and it was great research. And the professor was really frustrated. He basically said, "If you don't do the presentation, I'm going to take you down a letter grade." And of
Wow.
course, I knew I was going to apply for grad school after that, so that was important. But the fear was so much greater at the time that I said, go for it. And yeah, and he gave me the B. And so that's how much fear I had. And so for me to go from that to, to continue to build over the years and to a place where I could walk into a stadium and say, and this was what I did, I am the only hypnotist presenting here. And so that to empower, and I empowered myself first. And so I just, even though there are other things that I am, there's a much more to my identity. That was really important to establish that unique status and confidence. And the second thing was, and I'm going to draw all their energy instead of the other way around, and them taking all my energy from me. I'm going to take theirs, and it's going to be golden and wonderful. And so that was an amazing experience, which could have been kind of terrible, actually, if I hadn't. So those are, hopefully stories that will help other people to realize.
Years ago, when I was doing this corporate job and I had to present to the board of directors, and there was 20 board of directors, and they sat around this massive, huge table. And I was really nervous about presenting at this board meeting. And my boss at the time said to me, he goes, "Helena, you are the only one in the room that understands your job. And as long as you know just a little bit more than all the people around the table, just a little bit more, you are the expert in the room." I took that and I remembered when I was standing up there with that little eight-year-old boy, I'm the expert in the room. And I've got my wig on, I've got my costume, I felt empowered. And the show was so much fun, Joni. It was great. I had probably put out 8 chairs out in the front because that's how many we had. And I got 4 volunteers. And I thought, 4 volunteers. I thought, oh my gosh, for one split second, I thought, oh, what a failure. But I realized that nobody in the audience knew how many people I was really expecting.
Right.
Because I simply took the chairs away. And those 4 people were the stars of the show, the stars of the evening. My expectation was, I realized that my audience had no expectation. So I let go of my expectation and I dealt with what was.
And also with the beautiful wig that you wear, that helped you initially, and it was something that you felt you needed, but now you could take it or leave it, right?
It's like I have now become Roxy Madison anytime I want. Like right now, hey there, Joni, I'm Roxy Madison. I'm a comedy stage hypnotist, and I'm going to hypnotize you so you get you what you want. That's
There we go.
We're going to have a fun time today. and then boom. Oh, I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. My name is Helena Jehnichen, and I help people stop smoking and so much more.
And that is so true. You do so much more. So with my athletes, I also ask them to develop a different persona. So because often they're not quite at that point yet where they feel they belong. A lot of times maybe they'll qualify for certain levels and they think they're an imposter, they don't know, they think it's a fluke, they start forgetting about all that hard work they put in and everything that they've accumulated, all the learning, all the coaching and all the internalizing that they've done to, that's subconscious, and not trusting that it's back there. And once they can figure that out, they do just fine. But until then, I just have them imagine that they do have it. And, I have them name that, change their name. And I did that actually with the group. I spoke to Genentech. They make really wonderful medications for serious illnesses. and I did that corporate a corporate talk, and I had them all change their names for the run they were doing the next day for a charity. And so, and they made some name tags with the new names. And
Nice.
so there's all kinds of, tips and things that suggestions that we make as hypnotists that help so much until you actually understand, and the clients understand that they've become that, and they begin to trust that it's all there.
Mhm.
So it's
So
wonderful.
Joni, with that name, Roxy Madison, and as the stage hypnotist, and the Helena Jehnichen as the clinical hypnotherapist, I actually liked the separation and like the separation in keeping them separate, because the stage hypnotist shows are all about entertaining.
Right.
But because you know me, I always throw in a little bit of education as well.
Yes.
Yes, yes. And because I want people to understand the power of their mind and how they can use their mind to create whatever they want in their life. And then when I'm doing the clinical hypnotherapy, I'm able to use the stage hypnotist persona to demonstrate to my clients, because they come in and some of them are really nervous about hypnosis because they've seen a show on a cruise ship, or maybe they went to a high school show, university show somewhere. They get the idea that hypnosis is all about mind control, that the hypnotist is going to control that person, is going to make that person do whatever the hypnotist says. Well, that's not the way it works, is it?
No.
Mm-mm. No.
But I'm so glad that you're addressing this, because this is a very important issue. A lot of, especially young people that come to me, athletes or parents, is mainly, I would say, sometimes parental concerns are exactly that issue. Maybe the parents have been on a cruise or, seen a stage show, and they think they don't understand how that can, transition and help the athlete, or what it's going to do. Am I going to be telling them something different than what their coaches say, that kind of thing.
That's right. If Las Vegas is full of stage hypnosis shows, and there's some kind of light comedy shows, and then there's some kind of X-rated shows, and that is, both are fun. But when I said earlier on about the subconscious mind, and it holds your morals and your ethics, it is impossible for someone to give you a suggestion that goes against your morals or your ethics. We simply reject it. The client simply rejects it. If the client doesn't believe it, it's not going to go in and deep into and become a regular program. And that's why with hypnosis, there is repetition, repetition, repetition. I bet you tell your athletes, you've got audios for them to listen to, correct?
Yes.
Yes. And you ask them to listen to them repeatedly,
That's
repetition,
right.
repetition, repetition. Because first time you might hear it and you might go, oh, it's an idea, but I don't believe it.
Right.
And as they start to do the work with you and go through your programs and listen to the self-hypnosis audio recordings, the repetition is what goes in and becomes now their regular programming. But just like at those shows, how I have chairs set up for my volunteers, it's all about the volunteers. And just like our clients come to us, they're volunteering to go through the work with us. At the shows, it's like a magic show. It's all about, seeing the signage, the hypnotist is coming, the announcement, the hypnotist is coming, the stage is set up, there's chairs up there, and then the hypnotist comes out. And it's all about getting the audience believing that the hypnotist has got special powers. And we do. We have training, we have education. And it's all about making an entertaining show. I'll get volunteers to come up to the stage, and some of them I send back to the audience. The reason I send them back to the audience is not because they're not hypnotizable. It's because I have 45 minutes to do a stage hypnosis show.
Right.
And I'm looking for those volunteers that are highly suggestible, that want to go into a hypnotic trance-like state and have a lot of fun with their creative, powerful mind. And sometimes it's just not everyone's night to be up on stage.
Well, let's talk about the people who it does happen to be their night. What's something you might do to check that out, to see who in the audience would be the best for your show? And do you mind sharing something like that?
Sure. So as I get introduced and I talk to the audience, what I'm doing is I'm first of all looking for some interaction, because I need to build rapport.
Mm-hmm.
Right? People don't know who I am, and so we need to build that rapport, and we get some laughing going on. I get them, feeling comfortable, and then I get them to do some of these convincers, is what we call them in the trade, a convincer. And I'm looking for people in the audience that are following along with the convincers and who are highly suggestible in this particular situation. It could be something as a technique called the magic fingers.
Yes.
Have you ever seen this magic fingers? I think you maybe do with, I do this with my clients to demonstrate how powerful their mind is.
So I do this. I do that at my team talks. I do a lot of convincers. Yes.
There's kind of like a whole bunch of talking at the beginning, but basically in the end, I've got my people holding up their hands kind of like in a prayer, and they've got their two fingers pulled apart like this, and it's about an inch apart or so, and then I get them to focus in between the space of the fingers, and then I suggest to them that there's magnets on the top of their fingertips, and those magnets are pulling the fingertips together, and the more they imagine those fingertips coming together, because those powerful magnets are pulling them together, the closer and closer they come, all of a sudden they'll find themselves touching, and they'll become glued, stuck together. The magnets are so strong, they're magnetic pull, that they're glued, stuck together. And they could try to pull them apart, but they actually find themselves sticking their fingers closer and closer together, and tighter and tighter and tighter, and they're stuck together. They can try to pull them apart, but they can't. They just get more and more stuck. And then I count to 3. 1, 2, 3, and the fingers pull apart. And it is so fascinating to watch the audience, because sometimes it doesn't work. And other times people are stuck like this with their fingers together. And I need to go out into the audience and start to actually unmagnetize those fingers. The power of suggestion.
So I had to be careful how closely I watched that, because I'm highly suggestible.
I'm highly suggestible too.
Yes.
I'm what they call a natural somnambulist. It's our term. When we go to hypnosis conferences and trainings and stuff, they have to kind of like, Helena, come back. I'm like, okay. But I love that state, because when I'm in that highly suggestible state, I'm not in my conscious analytical small mind. I'm in my subconscious mind, using my imagination, and I am able to learn at a faster speed, at a deeper rate, when I'm in my highly suggestible subconscious mind.
So this is what I love, all of these things that we've been talking about, and how powerful they are in terms of getting the results. And the results are just whatever the client wants or needs. And so with athletes, it's fantastic when you see the light bulb go on, and when they see that, wow, what just happened? And I said, well, it really is important what you say to yourself before you perform, because it definitely sets off subtle to significant changes in the body. And then you show them, something like what you just demonstrated, and they can see, and they also can see how suggestible they are. Sometimes it's a matter of we need to work on that, your willingness, how much you really want to believe, how much you want to change your current way of thinking, and combining that. But when they do it, and we always well, I don't know if you do, but sometimes I hesitate to use the word magic because that we call up into that questioning again. And certainly we don't think we're magicians, but I will say every time it comes from the clients, not me. They said it felt magical. And I said, well, that was you. That was your brain. It was the way that the part of your mind that you allowed to be used to make this happen. And they're shocked, quite frankly, at how important the subconscious mind is.
The subconscious mind is so important, and children, I think I'm not quite sure if the number is up into the age of 5 or 8 years old, but children are mostly only have a subconscious mind. They're not critical analytical thinkers yet. They become them because that's how they learn and teach, and but why, mommy, why is that? And then they're learning, and then they can start to analyze and do all that. But up until a very, like, to a certain age, they're highly suggestible. Their minds are being programmed with things that they see, things that they hear, things that they experience. And what happens is they start to, as they get a little older, start to make beliefs. They make belief. They start to have beliefs, and they're being programmed to automatically respond to situations like that. And even when they're older and they're young teenagers, they're highly suggestible still by their friends, about their activities. And Joni, that there's people out there in the world that encourage people. You can do this. This is absolutely wonderful. And sometimes they hear the messages, you're an idiot. You're stupid. You're worthless. You're no good because. And later on in life, when we're working with the adults, we go back in time to help that child, that younger child, to give them the resources that they didn't have back then, and to relook at the situation. I mean, if you could go back to your child and you could go, oh, here you go, little girl. It's like, it's not quite the way that you thought it was, but in a child's mind, things are pretty dire sometimes when they're here yelling and screaming, or there's money situations, or there's so many different reasons, but that child has a perception, and we need to help that child have that adult have a new perception so they can make the changes.
That's why I'm so fortunate to work with younger people. I work with all ages, but working with younger athletes, the younger the better. Everyone always likes to talk about, and I do too. It's exciting to work with higher level athletes, and certainly, it's pretty obvious that I've done that. But the real fun is in developing, helping a coach, or being that teamwork of parent, coach, and having that mental coach to work with, and developing from an earlier age so that to avoid those habits. And that's why I'm so interested in mentoring coaches. And my new book is about mindful mentors, because it's like gold. When I find coaches or teams, and you've got a team of coaches and they're willing to learn these things, and allow their team to participate in this, mental side of the sport, it's amazing. Because they don't know, a lot of times they're not saying something on purpose necessarily. It's not always that blatant. Sometimes it is. I'm going to, just frankly, everyone knows that. But sometimes it's not. It's just not the thing that's helping the athlete. And what if, my favorite question when it's positive, what if they were able to have that thing to say to the athlete after their performance, or before their performance, or during their practices, to help build that confidence and install what it is they're actually trying to coach, without it being so hard and so frustrating. And I have the answer to that. What if? Well, it's amazing. You get amazing results because we see it all the time. But it's not just about now. It's about forever. It's about installing the right messages for life. Yeah.
So talking about installing right messages for life. So when I do my my high school grad in Canada, I'm in Canada. I don't think I've said that, but I do. We do these high school dry grads. So the kids all come together, grade 12, and they hang out all night long in a gymnasium or a community center. And there's lots of different activities to keep them busy. And as often as that the hypnotist is the last bit before they're released to go home. And so I use the opportunity as for teaching is at the end, the kids are all been in and out of hypnosis, like eyes open, eyes closed, doing all these different things. And I know my audience members are completely entranced in the show. And there's often by this time some parents there. There's often a police officer that's at the event because there's a couple hundred kids and they're just kind of community based, and so I start to give this suggestion. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, and my audience and my volunteers, I want you to notice that from now on, this is something so powerful for you to take hold of. And I want to encourage you to really like this idea that if you ever find yourself in a vehicle and the driver is texting, that all of a sudden you'll start to notice something's not quite right with your stomach, and you let the person know, stop texting now.
That's so much.
And then if that person continues to text, and I don't care if it's your friend, if it's your brother, your sister, your mom, your dad, whoever it might be, you'll start to feel that sting in your stomach, and you're going to let them know, I'm going to get sick right here and now unless you stop texting right now. And I'm going to let you know that I've had people reach out to me afterwards and let me know that that suggestion took hold so powerfully within them that they threw up in the car because the person didn't stop texting.
Wow.
Do you like that suggestion? Nod your head. Nod your head. And I get the audience to nod their head. And I get the volunteers to nod their head. And I get the parents to nod their head. And I get that police officer to nod his head. Take the opportunity to suggest something that's benefit for everyone. Again, demonstrating the power of creating a suggestion that feels good and installing it as a new way of being.
What an amazing suggestion. One of many, right? But that's an amazing, you've really done a great job of incorporating that into that important audience, because I happen to know a lot of them do it, and we know that, right? So it's just it's wonderful. That's wonderful. I did want to talk a little bit about, or have you describe what it feels like. I've been hypnotized. Obviously, I've hypnotized a lot of people, but from your perspective, what can you share with people what it feels like to be hypnotized? And I just want to preface that with saying, for people who go to a hypnosis show or they have the opportunity to be hypnotized, that they don't take advantage of it. I find that after they see other people do it, they wish they had, or they hear about the experiences. It kind of reminds me of karaoke. You might go with a group of friends and you're that one that doesn't get up and do it because you're afraid of being judged or what's going to happen. What am I going to sound? All the what ifs. And then you don't do it, but you secretly wish you could or you would have. But that happens a lot. So I think if we, I'd like for people to hear about what it feels like so they can hear what they're missing.
Mm-hmm. So I was one of those people that would go to Las Vegas because that's where a lot of conferences take place. And I'd go to all the stage hypnotist shows because I'm always learning and observing. And I finally decided that it would be a good experience for me to be a volunteer on the stage to feel what it felt like to be hypnotized. And I went up on stage and the hypnotist knew who I was, and because he knows who I was, and we were doing everything, and I'm like going, oh, this is really interesting. But I remember Joni going up on stage going, I know the end of this show, and I wasn't going to feel comfortable being at the end of the show. And I didn't really have the intention of staying to the end of the show. And even though it was fun and all that kind of stuff, and all of a sudden, Joni, I realized I'm standing on stage, me and one other person, and it is the end of the show, and I'm participating, and I'm having a great time. I have finally lost all my self-consciousness and just felt really good and happy. And the audience is laughing and clapping, and I knew what was going to happen at the end, and it was going to be so much fun and great. I made it through the whole show, and I felt fabulous. I felt empowered because all the way along, that hypnotist was giving us all fantastic, feel-good suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
And so what was really interesting was the concept of, or it's in hypnosis, a lot of my clients don't know how much time has passed for their hypnosis sessions.
Yeah.
Some people say,
I was
oh,
just working with an athlete using time distortion to their advantage. Yes.
That's right. That's right. Time distortion. A lot of my stop smoking clients, the session itself is, the hypnosis session is about 50 minutes. And I'll immerse them and I'll ask them, so how long do you think you had your eyes closed for? Oh, I don't know, 5 minutes. Totally distorted. But they heard everything that I said because I get them to do like little head nods and yeses and stuff like that. So it feels so good to be hypnotized and given all these fantastic, powerful suggestions. My clients, they feel relaxed. Their face looks relaxed. Their shoulders are down. They're breathing easily. They feel really good. Most times I see clients at least 3 times, usually about 3 times, and their issues are often very resolved. Stop smoking 1 session, but when they come back, they're very excited. And they tend to go even deeper, more rapidly into that lovely trance state because they enjoy it. It feels so good. It's the repetition, repetition, repetition. It feels so good. But those clients that I was just telling you that says it was only 5 minutes, but it was really 50 minutes?
Yes.
But I heard everything that you said.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yes, that's something I commonly hear too. I hear either I heard everything you said, or kind of a version of that they say, I heard everything that you said until I didn't care. And that the subconscious mind was doing all the work and listening, and that's just fine because that's what we're trying to accomplish anyway. And so it's wonderful, but it's also, it makes sense that they go deeper in their ways that we can make that happen. But also just knowing they're coming back to a safe environment that actually improved their lives, to the point that they wanted to come back. And so it's really great.
One of the suggestions I give out right at the beginning is a confirmation for the person that everything that I'm giving as a suggestion is intended for their highest good, to help them get what they want.
Right.
What they want.
And I think that emphasis is very important. And I'm glad you're saying that, because that is one of the biggest fears, is that it's going to be about what the hypnotist wants or somebody else wants. And I find this with young people when they come in and their parents are, drive them. I meet with both of them. Sometimes the parents stay, which is really great because they get to see it happen. But also making it very clear that it's for them, and it's about them and what they want. And those are the suggestions. And that's why it's so important to understand. And that's why I mentioned how great you are at developing rapport. I think that's just an essential skill, is to get that information in the beginning that will speak to them. It's what they need. And they, typically, people know what they need, but sometimes it is subconscious, and sometimes they just don't feel that like saying it out loud, because then they feel like that, okay, if it doesn't happen, then what? But they have this belief, this knowing, this understanding subconsciously that we want to develop, but they don't want to say it because what if it isn't true and all of that. So it's really wonderful to work with people and have them just say it out loud. And I love doing that in hypnosis, having them say it out loud inside their heads and get louder and louder, with more enthusiasm. And, we do those things and it works really well. So.
Talking about getting them to say things, the first time I ever went to a hypnotist myself was in, I think, like 1996. I'm going to share this habit that I had because I know I'm not alone, because I've had clients that come in with the same issue, but I thought I was very, very alone. And just before I do the issue was that my first question to the hypnotist, she was like saying all these stuff, and I had only one question in my mind. Am I going to tell you my secrets?
Yes.
And she looked at me and she said, not unless you want to. Mm-hmm. Joni, we all have secrets that we're not quite ready to share with everyone. Maybe never. But with hypnosis, if you have a secret, you can hold on to it. It's up to you whether or not to release it. But I want to let people know that, why I went to a hypnotist in the first place. And in the 90s, there was no internet. Remember? There was a telephone book. And I realized, I think I kind of had this idea that I needed a hypnotist to help me with this bad habit that I had. You see, I had this habit and I didn't know it was a bad habit. I thought I had bad skin, like broken out skin. And I realized that I actually maybe had a habit of picking at my skin. You see, I used to spend 2 to 3 hours a night in front of a mirror picking at my skin, at my face. Oh. And I don't know where the time went. Talk about time distortion, because I wasn't actually picking at my skin. I was reliving all the bad things in my life, the places where I felt like a loser, worthless, stupid, an idiot, like didn't amount to very much, all these negative things, my family, no boyfriend, this and that, all these things. And I was just talking to myself, negative, negative, negative. And I'm attacking my skin. And one day I kind of take a moment, like it was almost like what am I doing? And I had this idea, maybe I don't have bad skin. Maybe I have a habit of picking at my skin. And at that moment, I had another thought. My aunt, she quit smoking with hypnosis years ago. I wonder if a hypnotist could help me break this bad habit. So I found somebody, and we had 4 sessions together. But after the very first session, I never touched my skin on my face ever again. To this day, how many years is that? 24, 5 years ago. I cannot scratch at my skin because it hurts. Just touching it like this, I'm going, oh, that's enough. That suggestion stuck there. But Joni, you know what I was doing while I was doing that? I was in a trance and I was reinforcing everything I felt negative was wrong in my life, deeper and deeper and deeper. And it was coming out in attacking the body. That hypnotist needed 4 sessions with me so she could help me reprogram my mind to believe that I was worthy, that I had confidence, that I was smart, intelligent, and capable. Wow. That's how powerful hypnosis is.
The way I introduced you, those adjectives, they didn't have anything to do with those old messages you were telling yourself. So I've never known that to be true, but what a powerful story.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah.
So anybody that's watching that has a secret bad habit, I encourage you to go find a hypnotherapist that can help you get rid of your habit and help you reprogram your subconscious mind so that you feel worthy and capable and deserving and smart, intelligent and in control and confident and healthy and vibrant and all the wonderful things that you were born with. Joni, babies are born worthy and deserving of anything and everything they want to feel good in their life. And it's as we go through life that we start to reprogram that. And unfortunately, sometimes we reprogram it with negative beliefs. I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving because. I'm going to say to you that you are worthy and deserving because you were born, just because of that. It is your birthright.
I love that so much. And it is so true, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so grateful that we have brains that are malleable and we can change those habits that, somehow along the way, we've written some stories, and some of those stories, some of those emotions are simply not true. They're just lies we've told ourselves or someone else told us. And that's so freeing. Once clients and people find out that's something that happens, that emotional reasoning, they just find so much freedom in that, and but seeing how easy it can be to change it, even better. So I love the work we do.
Me too.
Yes. And there's more, but we're going to record part 2 of this and another day, because I know you have clients and I have clients this afternoon too. Mm-hmm. But part 2, I think it'd be great to talk about the emotion code. Mm-hmm. I personally experienced that. You've helped me with that. I'd never experienced it before. And I think it's something I really want the people that watch, my podcast to hear about and learn about and get the word out even more about this. So do you want to briefly just say something about the emotion code, and then we'll do a separate podcast?
I love the emotion code. Since I've added the emotion code to my hypnotherapy practice, my clients' results skyrocket. Often the second session, they come in, they go, can we do that emotion code work first? It is an amazing technique that was developed by Dr. Bradley Nelson. There's a wonderful book out there called The Emotion Code. He wrote it so anybody can read it, learn it very rapidly, and start to help themselves. I took it further. I became certified in the process. And it's a way, Joni, to identify the negative, unprocessed emotions caused by events in our life, or maybe even absorbed other people's emotions, their grief, their sadness, their sorrow, their terror that's still running within ourselves. And it's a way to identify these emotions without even talking about it. The body knows, and to clear it out of your nervous system. Out it goes. And all of a sudden people go, yeah, I feel better, almost instantaneously.
And I think one of the best ways for people to understand this is to see you doing it. If you wouldn't mind that, when we do our podcast, I have lots of volunteers.
I would love to do a demonstration of the emotion code process. It is rapid, it is fun, and people will notice a difference very fast.
I can attest to that. I've done it several times. You've done it for me, with me. That will, you can talk about the process and why you make certain decisions. But they definitely named it right, because I feel very emotional every time that we do it. But it's also just, it provides so much freedom, so much relief.
Yeah, so much relief.
Boy, it's been a year for it.
Yeah, with my smokers, when I do the emotion code right at the beginning, I'm wanting to make sure that they believe that they can become a non-smoker. Because if you don't believe you can't be a non-smoker, then we got a lot of work to do. But just to remove the blocks, the emotional blocks that are blocking a person from believing they can be a non-smoker. Is it safe? Is it okay? Do they deserve to be a non-smoker? And interestingly enough, I don't know if you've ever come across it, but people sometimes don't believe that they deserve to be a non-smoker for whatever reasons.
Or anything else, any type of success.
Yep.
And that's what we find, or there are all kinds of reasons that prevent people from pursuing their success.
With your athletes, could you imagine if they didn't believe they deserved to win or succeed, if they didn't feel that they were worthy of achieving the success that they want, if they and just all these different beliefs, and we could just let the things that were causing it there to go away and replace it with a new belief easily. That's the emotion code.
That's amazing. Well, let's pick an athlete as a volunteer, or
Oh, that would be terrific.
I'll put the word out. I'm sure I'll get plenty of volunteers. I always do.
Maybe there's someone that has a fear. They've developed a fear. Sometimes it's after an injury, or maybe there's even an event that didn't go the way that they want, and they're stuck.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I will put the word out on that. So Helena, so you are from Canada. Can you tell people how they can reach you and get a hold of you now that they've met you? They're going to be like, they're going to want to know.
So if you want to stop smoking, you can find me as thestopsmokinglady.com, thestopsmokinglady.com. And also I have my hypnotherapy website is flourishhypnosis.com, flourishhypnosis.com.
Thank you so much for doing this today. I think it's so important to get the word across and just really talk practically about hypnosis.
Thank you.